Black Soul. The cursed village. The rain was not falling. It was attacking Gorham Hollow, slashing sideways across the crooked houses as if trying to peel the village from the earth. Winds screamed through broken windows, making the old wooden structures groan like wounded animals. Gorham Hollow had once been a peaceful settlement, but now it was a graveyard with lights, a place where only the stubborn or the hopeless remained. The forest had grown wild around it, vines swallowing fences, trees bending unnaturally toward the houses as if listening. People outside believed the village was abandoned, but it wasn't. It was hunted. The villagers whispered about something ancient, something they called Siaru, the Black Soul, a presence, a shadow, a collector. No one knew when the curse began, but everyone remembered the missing people, the screams in the night, and the rule that every child learned even before they learned to speak. Never walk out after sunset, or it will walk with you. Evan's return. 22-year-old Evan Carter stood at the edge of his childhood home, staring at the rotting door. He had left this dying place at 17, swearing never to return. But fate, or debt, had pulled him back. His father had died last week. The cottage was now his. The problems, too. Evan pushed open the door. The hinges whimpered. The air smelled of damp wood and old memories. He set his backpack down and lit the small lantern on the table. He planned to leave in the morning. Sell the house, pay off his father's debts, and forget the village forever. A loud knock made him jump. Evan opened the door and froze. An old woman stood on the porch, drenched from the rain, her white hair plastered to her skull. Her eyes were cloudy but unnervingly sharp, reflecting the lantern's flame. "You should not have come back," she rasped. Evan forced a smile. "Good evening to you too, Mrs. Hargrove." She stepped closer, gripping his arm with bony fingers. "The Black Soul remembers every face, every sin, every promise broken." Evan exhaled in annoyance. "Not this again. There's no such thing as—" She cut him off. "If you stay until the blood moon, it will come for you." Thunder cracked behind her, echoing through the hollow village. Evan shut the door quietly, trying to calm his racing heartbeat. He didn't believe in curses, but he also didn't sleep that night. The village watches. Morning came pale and grey. Fog clung to the ground like crawling ghosts. Evan walked into the village centre, hoping to find someone normal, someone who didn't speak in riddles or threats. Instead, the villagers avoided him. A woman pulling water from the well froze when she saw him, clutching her child protectively. Two old men murmured prayers under their breath as he passed. Even the stray dogs growled low and backed away. Evan tried to shrug it off, but unease crawled under his skin. He entered the only shop in town, a dusty, dim-lit place owned by old Samuel Briggs. Samuel looked up with tired eyes. "You look like a man who saw a ghost." "Because everyone's acting like I am one," Evan said. Samuel sighed heavily. "Your father tried to warn you before he died. You didn't get his letters?" "What letters?" Evan frowned. Samuel hesitated. "Then you truly don't know." Before he could explain, a blood-curdling scream tore through the air outside. Evan and Samuel rushed out. A young boy, maybe 16, stood trembling, pointing toward the forest. I saw it," he stuttered. "A tall, black shadow watching me from the trees." Panic rippled through the crowd. Mothers grabbed their children. Men whispered prayers. Evan followed the boy's shaking finger. At the forest's edge, a figure stood motionless, tall, thin, pitch black, a shadow darker than the darkness around it. Its shape was human, but its presence was not. It wasn't looking at the villagers. It was looking directly at Evan. For a fraction of a second, its head tilted, like it was acknowledging him. Then it vanished, just gone, without sound or movement. The boy collapsed. The villagers scattered. Fear spread like wildfire. Samuel placed a trembling hand on Evan's shoulder. His voice was barely above a whisper. "It begins again." Evan swallowed hard. "You don't really believe all this, do you?" Samuel stared at him with pity. In Gorham Hollow, belief is not required, only survival. Evan looked toward the forest. The shadow took. The first sighting night returned to Gorham Hollow like a predator, silent, crouched, waiting. The storm had calmed, but the air was unnaturally still. No wind, no insects, no distant howl of wolves. The world was holding its breath. Inside his father's house, Evan sat on the old sofa, hands trembling slightly despite his efforts to appear calm. The lantern flickered in a strange rhythm, dimming, brightening, dimming like a heartbeat. He replayed the moment from the forest again and again. That shape, that stare, that deliberate head tilt. It wasn't just a shadow, it was aware. Evan rubbed his face, whispering, "Get a grip. Shadows aren't alive." But he didn't believe his own words. Outside, the fog thickened, crawling along the ground like living smoke. Then came the knock. Soft, slow. 3 steady taps. Evan froze. "Not again," he whispered. Another 3 taps shook the wood harder this time. Evan pushed himself up, unable to stop his shaking legs. He approached the door cautiously, lantern held high. "Who is it?" he asked, voice cracking. Silence. He opened the door and saw nothing but thick fog. But something had changed. The air smelled wrong. Damp, cold, metallic like soil freshly turned over a grave. He stepped back, closing the door gently, when a whisper slithered across the room behind him. "Evan." His blood froze, he turned slowly, and his heart nearly stopped. The shadow in the room. A black figure stood in the center of the living room, tall, motionless, featureless, but its presence pressed against Evan like a heavy, suffocating weight. The lantern dimmed as though afraid. "What do you want?" Evan whispered. The shadow tilted its head slowly, just like in the forest. Then something impossible happened. Its form rippled, like liquid darkness. Evan stumbled backward, hitting the wall. The shadow drifted forward without moving its legs, its feet hovering an inch above the floorboards. It raised one arm, slow, deliberate, pointing at him. A whisper filled the entire room, vibrating inside Evan's bones. "Come home." Evan's breath hitched. "This is my home." The whisper deepened. "Not here. My home." Before he could react, the lantern burst into a violent flicker. Evan threw it at the figure in panic. The lantern extinguished mid-air. Darkness swallowed the room. When the light returned a second later, the shadow was gone. Evan grabbed his jacket, storming outside. He couldn't stay in that house another second. The horror wasn't inside the building. It was inside him. His feet carried him down the muddy road, past the well, past the silent houses, until he reached the place he feared most. The Ashen House. Blackened walls, charred windows, a roof half collapsed. But what terrified Evan most was that the house looked as though it had been burned yesterday, not decades ago. The wood was still black, still cracked, still reeking faintly of smoke. The stories were true. The house never aged, it never decayed, because the darkness inside it was alive. Lightning flashed above. The front door creaked open. By itself, inviting him. Evan swallowed hard and went inside the Ashen House. The air was cold enough to bite. The walls hummed with a faint vibration, like someone whispering behind the wood. Evan raised a trembling lantern and stepped into the main hall, and there, on a table covered in ash, lay a small book, a diary. Its cover was cracked and burnt, his father's name carved faintly into the leather. Evan picked it up, dust rising into the air like dead breath. His hands shook as he opened the first page. His heart stopped. "I made a deal with the Black Soul." The room grew darker. The lantern flickered violently. Somewhere upstairs, a door slammed open. Evan clutched the diary to his chest as the temperature dropped even further. Something was moving in the house. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Evan knew without doubt he wasn't alone, and whatever walked upstairs was not human. House. The upstairs floorboards groaned under invisible footsteps. Evan held his breath. The Ashen House, burned decades ago yet preserved unnaturally, felt alive around him. The walls pulsed faintly as if breathing. The air smelled of soot, wet earth, and something metallic, like dried blood. Evan clutched the diary tighter. The footsteps continued upstairs, slow, dragging, patient. Something was pacing directly above him. A whisper seeped down the staircase. "You should not have come." Evan's pulse hammered in his ears. He forced his trembling legs to move toward the stairs. Every step creaked like a warning. The second floor was darker than the first. The air was colder. The hallway stretched longer than he remembered, as if the house had grown in his absence. At the end of the corridor, a door stood half open, his mother's old bedroom. The music box inside began playing, by itself. The tune was wrong, notes twisting unnaturally, bending like warped metal. Evan stepped toward the door. Halfway down the hall, something brushed his shoulder. Cold, soft, wrong. He spun around, nothing. But the darkness was thicker now. Shadows pooled at the corners of the ceiling, sliding across the floor, gathering around him like living ink. The music box slowed to a crawl, and then a shape stepped out from his mother's bedroom. A tall, human-like figure made entirely of darkness. Not a shadow on the floor, not a silhouette cast by light. A being, a presence, the black soul. Its form rippled, its edges frayed like smoke. No face, yet Evan could feel its stare, piercing, hungry, endless. His chest tightened painfully. The black soul lifted its head and spoke, its voice 100 whispers overlapping. Your father owed me a soul. A life stolen must be repaid. Evan backed away. What are you talking about? The entity drifted closer, feet hovering above the floor. Your mother was dying. Evan's heart stopped. Your father begged me to save her. Evan's breath shattered in his throat. His father, his quiet, broken father, had made a bargain. The black soul's form expanded, filling half the hallway. I saved your mother. I spared your life. But he never paid the price. Evan shook his head. No, this isn't real. The black soul's whisper echoed so loud the walls shivered. A life saved must be traded. It pointed at Evan. You were the life. Evan's blood ran cold. All the warnings, all the disappearing villagers, the curse, it wasn't random. It was a contract. And Evan was the unpaid debt. The house awakens. The hallway suddenly warped. The wooden floorboards bent, twisting like living flesh. Nails rose from the floor, turning like sharpened teeth. Evan turned and ran. The walls slammed inward, narrowing the corridor. The shadows chased him, reaching, clawing, whispering his name. Evan! Evan! As he sprinted, the house shook violently, dust pouring from the ceiling. Doors slammed open and shut. Windows shattered, letting in icy wind. He reached the stairs, and the black soul appeared at the bottom, blocking the path. Its voice filled the entire house. You cannot escape your fate. Evan stumbled backward, breathing in broken gasps. Please. Look, he whispered. My father didn't know what he was doing. The black soul tilted its head. He knew. Evan choked. He offered you. The words hit Evan like a punch. His father offered him? Lightning flashed through the broken roof of the ashen house, illuminating the entity completely. For the first time, Evan saw its face. Not a human face, but a mask of shifting darkness. And inside it, 2 burning white lights, like hollow eyes. They locked onto him. Time stopped. The black soul raised its hand, and the hallway behind Evan sealed shut with crashing wooden spikes. He was trapped. Your blood pays the debt. Your soul completes the pact. The entity reached for him. Darkness poured from its fingers like smoke, snaking toward Evan's throat. Evan screamed and swung the diary at it desperately. The moment the diary struck the shadow, the house exploded with a blast of cold air. The black soul recoiled, hissing, shrinking backward like a wounded animal. Evan stared in confusion. The diary, his father's diary, was glowing faintly with white light. The entity hissed in rage. He tried to break the pact. But he failed. Evan clutched the glowing book, chest heaving. What do you mean he failed? The black figure trembled furiously. To break the curse, a sacrifice must be made. Before Evan could ask what that meant, the floor beneath him splintered, and he plummeted into darkness. Evan crashed into the basement of the ashen house. Dust filled the air. His lantern shattered beside him. Above, the black soul's whisper echoed through the floorboards. Your soul will free us all. Evan lay in the dark, realizing the truth. His mother didn't die from sickness. His father didn't die from age. Both deaths were tied to this creature, this curse, this bargain. And now, it wanted him, half buried under broken planks. His ribs burned, his legs trembled, but he forced himself up. The air was thick, heavy with dust, cold as a tomb. His lantern was gone. His father's glowing diary was gone. And the only light came from faint cracks in the ceiling, cracks where the black soul drifted above, hunting. Evan staggered to his feet. The basement looked wrong, larger than he remembered. The walls pulsed like living skin. Dark veins ran through the wooden beams. The ground was damp, muddy and cold, as if he were standing inside a grave. Then he saw them, symbols carved into the floor, burn marks, blood stains, the remains of old ritual circles. Evan stumbled forward and realized something horrifying. This basement was where his father made the deal. A whisper curled around him like icy breath. He begged for your mother's life. Evan turned sharply. A figure sat in the corner, thin, shaking, covered in soot. His heart froze. Dad? The figure lifted its head. It was his father, or what was left of him. Pale, hollow, a ghostly after-image burned into the darkness, trapped between worlds. Evan, the ghost whispered, voice cracking with pain. I tried to save you. I tried. Evan dropped to his knees. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you warn me? His father's ghost flickered like an old film. I did, so many times, but the soul erased the letters. It didn't want the pact broken. Evan clenched his fists. You made a deal with that monster? His father bowed his head, trembling. Your mother was dying. You were only a child. I was desperate. The black soul offered life in exchange for a life. I thought I could outsmart it. You didn't, Evan whispered harshly. No. The ghost began fading. I failed. Above them, the black soul moved across the ceiling like a storm cloud swirling with rage. He failed the pact. Now you must pay. The entity seeped through the cracks like black smoke, reforming in the basement. Evan's father's ghost recoiled instantly, as though burned by its presence. The black soul towered over Evan, filling the room with suffocating darkness. Evan backed away until he hit the wall. You cannot run, the entity whispered. You were chosen at birth. Your soul frees us. Your life ends the curse. Evan clenched his teeth. I'm not giving you anything. The black soul stretched its hand toward him. You will. The revelation. His father's ghost suddenly lunged between them, screaming, No! Take me instead! The black soul hissed in fury, and its hand passed through the ghost's chest, causing the spirit to convulse violently. You have no life left to give, the entity growled. You belong to the dark already. The ghost collapsed, flickering like a dying flame. Evan cried out, grabbing his father's fading form. Dad, no! You must finish it, his father whispered. In my diary, the last page, I wrote the ritual, the only way to break the curse. Evan shook his head, tears streaming. I lost the diary. It will return to you, his father whispered, when you need it most. The ghost's light dimmed completely. I love you, son, then he shattered into ash. Evan screamed as the debris scattered into the darkness. The final hunt. The black soul's form expanded, swallowing all remaining light. Enough, it whispered. The pact ends now. It surged forward. Evan ran. The basement twisted around him, corridors forming where none existed, walls bending, doors appearing and vanishing. The ashen house was alive and hunting him alongside the creature. He sprinted into a narrow passage as the entity's hand sliced through the wall beside him, leaving a trail of rotting wood. At the end of the passage, something caught his foot. A book. The diary, glowing white, just like his father said. Evan grabbed it and flipped desperately to the last page. There was a message written in rushed handwriting. To break the pact, the blood of the willing must be given, but not death, courage. Beneath it, a ritual circle was drawn. Evan's eyes widened. It wasn't asking for sacrifice, it was asking for defiance. The black soul erupted into the passageway behind him, screaming 1,000 broken voices. Evan stood his ground. Breaking the curse, he held the diary open and yelled the final words written by his father. I offer no life. I give no soul. The curse ends with me. The diary exploded in blinding white light. The black soul shrieked, staggering backward as the light ripped into its darkness like burning fire. The entire house shook violently. Beams snapped. Bricks fell. The floor cracked open beneath Evan's feet. He kept shouting, The blood of the willing. He cut his palm with a shard of wood. Blood dripped onto the floor. Is my courage, not my death. The pact is broken. The curse is over. The white light surged outward like a shockwave. The black soul convulsed, its form breaking apart into ribbons of darkness. No! Its voice shattered. The debt is not. It disintegrated completely. Silence. The walls stopped moving. The basement stopped shaking. The darkness lifted like smoke blown away by wind. The ashen house collapsed around him, but Evan crawled through a broken window just in time, rolling into the night grass as the entire structure imploded. A single beam of moonlight broke through the clouds. He lay there, bleeding, shaking, breathing hard, but alive. In the spot where the house once stood, only ash remained. The curse was gone. The black soul was no more, and Gorham Hollow would breathe again. The storm screamed across the ruined cemetery as Aiden descended into the shattered mausoleum, clutching the obsidian shard that throbbed like a wounded heart. The air was thick with the stench of burnt earth and rotting memories, echoes of every soul the black soul had swallowed over centuries. Below in the crypt, the shadows churned like a living ocean, and in the center of that storm rose the black soul, taller than before, its body a vortex of stolen souls, faces screaming within its swirling darkness. You cannot destroy me, it hissed, its voices layered, male, female, child, ancient. Your blood carries my mark. You are one of us now. Aiden's chest burned where the creature had clawed him earlier. The infection had spread across his veins like black lightning. His vision blurred, but he forced himself forward. Behind him, Lena struggled to breathe as she leaned against a broken column, bleeding from the earlier collapse. "End it before it takes you too," she gasped. Aiden raised the shard. The crypt trembled. The black soul surged, tendrils whipping through the air like serpents. "Give yourself to me," the creature whispered. "Let us become whole." Aiden felt his legs weaken. His heart slowed, thump, thump, then a painful pause. A tendril latched onto his wound, injecting more darkness. He screamed as visions flooded him, himself wandering as a hollow vessel, Lena's soul screaming inside the vortex, the entire town swallowed into endless night, and then his mother's voice, soft, gentle, calling his name, a memory, a spark of humanity. Aiden tightened his grip on the shard. "No," he whispered, "you don't get to rewrite my soul." He plunged the obsidian shard into his own infected chest. The world exploded. A blast of white fire tore through the crypt, throwing stones and shadows into the air. Aiden collapsed to his knees as the shard fed on his sacrifice, turning his pain into pure, searing light. The light struck the black soul, shredding its form. The trapped souls screamed, not in terror but in release, as they burst free like streaks of silver. The monster writhed, its form flickering. "No, I'm eternal. I am." It never finished. The light consumed it, ripping it apart until nothing remained but drifting ash. The storm above died in an instant. Silence washed over the mausoleum. Lena crawled toward Aiden, her voice trembling. "Aiden, stay with me, please." He lay on the cold stone floor, the wound in his chest glowing faintly, but instead of darkness, there was only a soft amber light, his soul healing itself. "I'm still here," he whispered. "For now." Lena touched his face, relief loosening her breath. "You did it. You saved us." Aiden smiled weakly, but then his expression shifted. Something in the air had changed. A distant echo, faint but unmistakable, whispered from the shadows, "The mark lives." The ash on the ground stirred, forming a single pulsing ember of black. Aiden stared at it, dread tightening in his chest. "It's not over," he muttered. Lena followed his gaze and shivered. "What do we do now?" Aiden rose slowly, gripping the shard, its glow fading but still warm. "We hunt it," he said, "before it finds another soul to claim." He stepped out into the dim post-storm night, the last ember flickering behind him like a warning. The darkness was wounded, but not dead, and the black soul would rise again, unless Aiden ended it forever. The end, or the beginning of something far darker. The night after the battle was unnaturally cold. Not the chill of winter, but the cold of something watching, something waiting. Aiden and Lena walked through the forest path leading away from the cemetery, every branch creaking like brittle bones. Aiden's chest still glowed faintly where he had stabbed himself with the obsidian shard. The wound refused to close completely, pulsing at random, like a second heartbeat. Lena noticed it again and stopped. "Aiden, that thing inside you, it's not normal." He exhaled slowly. "I know, it's like a door that didn't fully shut." Lightning flashed far above the treetops, illuminating the twisted forest. The world felt darker, heavier, as if the shadows pressed closer with each step. They reached an abandoned ranger cabin, the closest shelter they could find. Lena pushed the door open, dust swirling around them. Inside, everything was silent. Too silent. Aiden set the shard on the table. Immediately, the cabin lights flickered, and the air vibrated with a low hum. Lena tensed. "What's happening?" Aiden stared at the shard. "It's reacting to something." Then, tap, 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 a knocking sound from the back wall. Lena grabbed a rusted metal rod from the fireplace. "Who's there?" The tapping grew louder, becoming frantic. Aiden approached the wall cautiously and brushed away a layer of dust. His breath caught. Scratched into the wood were words written by someone who had clawed them out with their bare hands. "Ati is not alone." Before they could react, a deafening shriek tore through the cabin as the window shattered inward. A pitch-black figure slammed onto the floor, small, twisted, its body made of swirling shadow and bone. Not the black soul. Something born from it. Lena stumbled back. "What is that?" Aiden grabbed the shard. It burned hot in his palm, reacting violently. The creature lifted its head, revealing a skeletal face with hollow eyes. In a voice that sounded like 100 broken whispers, it spoke, "Father." Aiden froze. "What did you call me?" The creature dragged itself closer. Born from your wound, your light and its darkness, you created us. Us? Lena whispered. More shadows crawled through the broken window. Twisted forms, dozens of them, each slightly different, each with fragments of stolen souls embedded in their bodies. Children of the Black Soul. Children connected to Aiden. The first creature shrieked, pointing a crooked claw at Aiden's glowing chest. When you tore him apart, we were freed. But we carry his hunger. Aiden backed away. No, I didn't mean to create you. The creature's eyes burned with a hungry emptiness. We need a soul to anchor us, yours. They lunged. Aiden grabbed Lena's arm. Run! They bolted through the cabin door as the creatures smashed through the walls. Shrieks echoed through the forest behind them. Branches whipped their faces as they sprinted. Aiden felt the darkness inside his wound flare painfully, as if calling to the creatures. Lena gasped. They're following you! Aiden skidded to a stop by a wide ravine. The moonlight illuminated the drop, deep, jagged, impossible to cross. Lena looked back. The swarm of shadow creatures poured through the trees. Aiden, what do we do? He raised the shard. Its glow pulsed faster. A terrifying realization struck him. The shard wasn't a weapon anymore. It was a beacon. It was calling the creatures. Aiden's voice cracked. I have to destroy it. Lena grabbed his wrists. You destroy it! You destroy yourself! The creatures shrieked, dozens of voices merging into one. We are hungry. Aiden shut his eyes, remembering the faces of the freed souls and the lingering ember he left behind in the mausoleum. No more, he whispered. He threw the shard into the ravine. The forest exploded with light. The creatures screamed as they convulsed, torn between existence and oblivion. Some disintegrated instantly, others collapsed, twitching in pain. But Aiden dropped to his knees. His wound ignited, glowing white-hot, as if the shard's destruction was ripping him apart from the inside. Lena screamed, grabbing him. Aiden, look at me! His eyes flickered with both light and shadow. I can feel them, he choked. All of them. They're inside me now. The remaining creatures stopped shrieking. They bowed to him. Every one of them. Lena stepped back, horrified. Oh my God, Aiden! They think you're their king. The forest went silent, except for Aiden's trembling breath. Far away, the single ember he left in the mausoleum flared back to life, and a familiar whisper rose on the wind. The Black Soul always returns.